All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
What up, what up, what up? I'm wearing my credibility glasses, my friends. I like to wear my credibility glasses post big defamation settlement. I like to wear them. Yeah. Boy, they, Fox people, they really waited to the last second before they blinked, huh? They don't wave that white flag in the first couple of weeks, do they? They wait right up till the limit.
Probably hard to part with 787 million, you know?
Oh my gosh. We're going to break it down. Yeah, we're going to break it down.
Like this.
There never has been. One of, if not the biggest defamation checks in a lawsuit ever written. So, Kim is here. You heard the lovely Kim.
Kim, how are you?
And Albert is here as well.
Albert,
is going to be joined by Kim, myself, and John Rothmann, bottom of the hour. We'll talk about all things political. I wanted him to give you a little history on Clarence Thomas's situation in relation to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court resignations of the past. So we'll do that too. And also the Pulitzer Prize winner, Michael Hiltzik, will join us. What's that?
It's just the situation drop, you know. Clarence Thomas. What we have here is a situation.
Oh, I'll tell you. Well, I mean, we do have a situation.
We do.
What he's got going here is a situation.
But as I've noted, he's not going to make any changes to his routine. I mean, this is what people don't realize about Clarence Thomas. He's a simple person. Simple man. He likes a Walmart.
I prefer the Walmart parking lots.
That is it, Walmart. He likes that. He comes from regular stock, that Clarence Thomas.
I come from regular stock.
Yes. And so, you know, when you're from regular stock, you would know this, Kim, and your luxurious surroundings, but sometimes you're just happy. Mobile homing it, Walmarting it. Yeah, that's Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
And if you all in the liberal media
I prefer
would
the
give him
Walmart
a
parking
chance
lot
to just set up that mobile home in the Walmart parking lot and leave him alone, he could get back to making some important Supreme Court judgments and taking away your rights over your own body. Now, smash the like button like a boss. I'm going to get right into it. As I mentioned, guests today include Rothmann and the award-winning columnist for the LA Times, Michael Hiltzik. So much to do. Let's do it. Let's do it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Fox News lost the lawsuit. They're going to pay $787.5 million to Dominion Voting Systems. As you know, and it came out in discovery, the process by which different evidence is revealed and will be brought into the trial, those pieces of evidence leaked to us, the public, that there was a lot of clear knowledge on the part of Fox's lead people and Fox at the highest levels, including Rupert Murdoch, that they were perpetuating a lie. It was completely not true, that which they were saying about the vote flipping, about it, right? So as that evidence became clearer and clearer to us, the public, I think Fox was looking down the barrel of a humiliating trial that would likely have, the outcome might have been in doubt. And I say that because you never know what a jury is going to decide. But what certainly wouldn't have been in doubt is the impression the public has of Fox. It would have been humiliating for all of their stars. The Sean Hannitys, the Laura Ingrams, Maria Martiromo, Lou Dobbs. Did you see what they said about Lou Dobbs in some of these? You know, the takeaways from all of this, more than the $787 million check that was written, the takeaways include those things that were said about other people on their network. I love the Dobbs thing because Dobbs was, he is truly a fire-breathing dragon, Lou Dobbs. And Trump dialed into Lou Dobbs' show on January 6th. And Lou Dobbs wanted to have him on, but Fox executives vetoed it. This is, again, one of the things that came out in all of this stuff. So we talk about, well, what did we walk away with when we didn't get to see them on the stand? We weren't going to see them on the stand anyway, obviously. Cameras were barred, so are recordings. But we're not going to even be able to read about what was said. We're not going to be able to in any way get that moment of reckoning, of humiliation. Okay, yeah, but look at what's revealed. Let's go back to this Dobbs scenario. Fox executives vetoed the decision. This is in the legal brief. Why? Not because of a lack of newsworthiness. January 6th was an important event by any measure. But this is all from the brief. President Trump not only was a sitting president, he was the key figure that day. It would be irresponsible, the network executive said, to put him on the air and could impact a lot of people in a negative way. Dobbs was the most aggressive of the Fox News anchors in presenting the Dominion conspiracy theories. His Fox Business program was taken off the air on February 5th, 2021. The quote on Lou Dobbs from a top Fox News executive named Jay Wallace was, "The North Koreans do a more nuanced show than Lou Dobbs."
Ouch.
Yeah, I mean, that's your own network saying that. So there were revelations, and we did hear recordings, and we heard Maria Bartiromo, who is, sold her soul, it seems, long ago. She was really sidled up to Sidney Powell, loved exchanging emails with Giuliani, with Powell, but aware herself, Bartiromo was, that what they were slinging was BS. In fact, Bartiromo said, and this is something else that was revealed in all of this, that emails involving Powell and Eric Trump were nonsense and inherently unreliable. This is all the Venezuela stuff. Remember everything said about Dominion, describing Nancy Pelosi as having an ownership position in Dominion, the MyPillow guy. But what I would love to say to so many who are looking forward to that moment of reckoning is we likely weren't going to see it anyway.
Yeah.
They were going to go on the stand and they were going to tell a different story. This is definitely a win for Dominion, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I wanted you to hear a little something from the co-lead counsel of the Dominion suit, who spoke a bit about what we would have seen in the trial. Do you have that, Albert? This is off of MS. Take a look.
And by the way, they're number one in many ways. There are millions of viewers that will not get this news. And what do you say to that?
I think that's a shame. But if you would look at what would happen in a trial, I can tell you, because I saw what their opening statement slides looked like. They were going to come into that courtroom and they were going to gaslight. We weren't going to get Rupert Murdoch up on the stand admitting he had that he could have stopped this and he knew what was going on. He was going to say he had no idea. The hosts were going to say they had an open mind, that they thought this could be true. And Joe, you're a lawyer, you know how this works. We're going to have to come in there with the documents and prove that they were lying over and over again when they claimed they had an open mind and didn't know what the truth was. Those documents are out there. So you're absolutely right, Mika. We can't make Fox News report on this. We couldn't make Fox News report on the trial, even if it happened. But go ahead. Sorry.
Couldn't you hold out for an apology, though?
I think that's the thing that surprised a lot of people. They expected Fox to have to issue an apology for causing such grievous harm, not only to the company, but also to its employees, and many would argue to American democracy.
I agree with everything you just said. I think the apology is a little bit the wrong thing to be asking for. I think what we wanted is the truth to get out there. A forced apology isn't worth much. But if Fox, and they're adults, they know how to do this. If they would just tell their viewers the truth about what actually happened in the 2020 election, that's what we're after. Yeah, they still have the opportunity to do that. Yeah, in depositions, we asked them why they wouldn't do that. They said, well, it's old news now, which is ironic. But
okay,
it is what
Thank
it
you.
is.
Thank you, Albert. So that's what you would have gotten at the trial. I wanted you to hear that because there's a sense that how come, and I felt the same way. Like, I can't wait to hear the statement that Fox is going to be forced to read on the air. In addition to writing this check, they're going to have to issue some statement. And the reality was there was no statement. And Fox News Channel completely ignored this. They literally didn't report on it at all.
No, as a matter of fact, yesterday when the news of the settlement broke, everywhere on the internet, every website, CNN's website, MSNBC, ABC, all had news of the Dominion settlement. On the Fox News website, it had their lead in big pictures was public disgrace about a Biden cabinet member who had done something wrong. And it was just as the irony of public disgrace, public dishonesty. Really? That's your lead? Mm-hmm.
That is truly on brand, though,
Yeah.
I'll just mention this. I thought this is mentioned as you read about all the money that Fox makes. This check, while substantial, it is a blow they can take financially. But I'll just mention this, and then I'll give you a little bit from this piece that I thought was pretty good. There'll be other lawsuits against Fox. Shareholders can sue. They can even sue executives because you understand there were falsehoods here and frauds perpetuated here and permitted here, all to get audience. But now you have to write a check for $787.5 million. If that affects the stock price, I, as a stockholder, may be added to a lawsuit. I promise you, Fox will be back in court related to this. And their executives and other characters around this, the constellation of figures, Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Mike Lindell, they're all in the sights of Dominion. They still, do you understand, are being sued by Dominion, all of those people I just mentioned. So Fox and their associated personalities will very much find themselves in a courtroom again. Based on a series of sneak peeks at the damning evidence against Fox developed in pretrial discovery, the lucrative payout wasn't surprising, and it may not be that big a deal for Fox when you consider what humiliation they're avoiding. This is what I was saying before. The case was ripe for a settlement in which Fox paid a premium to avoid a debacle of a trial, serving the party's interests more than society's. This is the point I wanted to make. We think about the interest that is served by this Dominion lawsuit holding Fox News Channel, this major media outlet, to account for what are clear falsehoods. And you could even say for sowing the seeds of an unrest that led to a J6 attempted coup. That's not, in my judgment, what Dominion was suing for. I don't mean to be too cynical, but they got what they wanted. They brought Fox to their knees through discovery and discovery evidence being released that showed, as we've said, demonstrably they knew that they were pursuing a falsehood here on the air. But what Dominion wanted was a penalty. They wanted a monetary penalty. Dominion isn't acting in the public interest. They're acting in the interest of Dominion. This is a company that was worth $3 or $4 million before this whole thing began. They just got a check for close to $800 million. Were the damages real? Yes. But had you gone to trial, you have to show me how this $4 million company had $1.6 billion worth of damage. That might have been a big mountain to climb. Now, maybe not. As we say, the evidence was strewn everywhere. This was an absolute out-and-out, wall-to-wall lie. And they were screaming it on 11, right? But the interest Dominion had in this suit I'm talking about was associated with money. And they got their money. And so from that standpoint, these lawyers out in front of the courthouse can say what they want about, we got the truth out there and this is a great day for democracy. And they did get the truth out there. It's not wrong, but it coexists with what is their real goal, which was to recover economic damage. That's your job. We've been damaged as a company. The way to right that wrong is with money. That's America. And that's what happened in that Dominion lawsuit. I'm not seeing comments, but Kim, you're watching, right? Albert, you're watching?
Oh, yeah. We've had some great comments up there. Mm-hmm.
Well, share a couple, please, while I'm...
I will share a couple. Let's see. Here's a good one. Yeah.
Could you read it? I'm sorry.
Copper says Dominion could easily impeach Fox witnesses with their own deposition testimony and text. The reality, even a verdict for Dominion would be appealed for years. They just want their money. And that's just what you said. It's about money, right?
Yeah, it really is. So,
and it's interesting, though, because I think America wanted more, right? Much of America, for Dominion, it was about money and making them whole. But for America, who, the people who knew it was a lie and saw what was happening, we wanted a comeuppance day, right? We wanted to see the admission of the liars. And I think that's really what a lot of the texters and chatters are saying is, here's Eric Kennedy. Fox News viewers need to hear these things, but never will.
No,
Never
exactly.
will.
And, the way I knew that this settlement really didn't hold with the American people, that there wasn't enough there. They wanted real public accounting. I heard about it on The View. The View people, are they the women? Are there any guys on that View? No.
The whole point of it
women
is
of The View.
Yeah.
They are disappointed in the Fox settlement. I'm just getting this as breaking news. They hold out hope that other lawsuits will lead to mass firings. The amount was about half of what Dominion sought in its defamation lawsuit. Lies have consequences for our democracy to endure for another 250 years and hopefully much longer, said the lawyer. But good luck with that, is what Joy Behar said. As they began their discussion this morning, apparently Whoopi noted that it was revealed in the discovery documents and depositions that it was overwhelmingly known that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Should they have had to go onto their own network and say, look, yes, we lied to y'all?
Yes, they should have. All they did was issue a statement. And no, they should have. One person in the chat, and I forget who it was, said that the settlement should have included free commercials for Dominion for a year, where Dominion had, airtime on that station to run whatever spot they wanted.
Yeah. Well, everybody on the View panel, including Whoopi, annoyed with it. I don't know what the pull is that the View has anymore, but for those who watch it, I guess it's it's a fairly influential program. There was one time in America, I told you, when it was on the cover of the New York Times Magazine, and it was really celebrated as the most influential political show in America, The View. I don't know exactly how much, pull it still has.
Franco from Danville wants to know, any chance the Fox settlement includes the end of their BS? No, that wasn't included in the settlement.
The thing that you should know is, and just an interesting fact, just because we're talking about money and, the fact that they're going to have to write this check, the advertising revenue that they get is really low. That Fox News Channel is not supported by advertisers. No, they're supported by you and me. Our cable subscription, the carrier fees, they're massive. That's where they make all their money. They don't make it on advertising. You think MyPillow is paying for Fox News Channel? The MyPillow revenue couldn't even pay for Sean Hannity. So those carrier fees, when you order your cable, you get what? CNN, MSNBC, Fox News Channel, Fox Business, a bunch of other shows, Discovery, True TV, etc., right? All of those channels are paid a carrier fee. And so that carrier fee is what's supporting Fox News Channel. So it's a weird thing to consider, but you and I are supporting Fox News Channel, and we're going to be paying off that. If you're a cable TV subscriber, going to be paying off that big judgment. And it's well worth it to them to, as I say, pay that and not think about it again. So it is wild how they took it all the way up into the 11th hour. I thought that was, we thought there would be a settlement on Monday, right? Then it looked like there was a settlement maybe in the offing, and then they literally had mic'd up the attorneys, apparently, and were all of a sudden stopped, and there was a delay, and then a settlement announced.
And the
this
judge
payout is
praised
exactly,
them.
And the judge praised them, is that what you said?
Yeah, the judge praised the attorneys on both sides and said, this is what lawyering should be. This is how you do it.
Wow.
And John Smith agrees. He says this payout is exactly what's wrong with our country. If you have money, you can buy your way out of murder, he writes.
Well, that's certainly true. It's a flawed system in many ways. And obviously, this I thought was curious for one thing. If you're going to settle, why not settle before all that evidence comes out about how much you knew? I mean, you can't tell me that those recordings, those damning recordings, and the email exchanges and the text exchanges, the ones that said on part of Tucker Carlson, I can't stand this guy Trump. I can't wait till we don't have to report on him anymore. I mean, where everyone knew that they were slinging total BS. And I mean, and it was more than that. They were, as I've just said, they were reflecting animus toward this guy Trump. They didn't like him. And they were still doing everything they could to support his story because their audience liked him so much. You can't tell me that you wanted all that out there. So you don't want all that out there. So that's your incentive to do what? Settle before all that stuff does get out there.
Well, what I wonder is what else did they have? If that was damning enough, was there more in evidence that they had? Were there more conversations? Was there, more emails, more voicemails, maybe even, clips, video clips from when they thought they were off air? What else was there that made Fox want to protect those hosts? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that you needed a lot else. As you said, there was a lot out there.
There was.
Maybe there was other stuff out there. But, I mean, just to use a sports analogy, I mean, it's like conceding the game after, it's already 45-0. You know what I mean? And going, well, I'm glad we're getting out of it now. Could have been a lot worse. It could have been 63-0. Yeah, dude, it was bad, okay? What was exposed about your team was bad. So I don't see that calculation. I see it as a misstep, a massive misstep on the part of a media mogul, Rupert Murdoch, who has built an empire. I mean, he's not a stupid man. Why wouldn't you write this check before all that crap got out there? Anyway, they didn't. To me, they did the worst. They let all the stuff get out there, and then they settled for a huge number after all the stuff got out there the day of the trial. And I also understand why he held out, because that's leverage. Like, we're going to take you to trial, and we're going to win. Yeah. And you maintain that posture in these kinds of negotiations because you want to negotiate the number down. And so as Dominion lawyers are there at the table and negotiating, Fox lawyers are saying, we're not worried, dude. Bring us to trial. I don't care. We're going to impeach all of your evidentiary material, and you're going to have a long slog on your hands, and then we're going to appeal this judgment if it goes against us, and you're going to be in court for years. That's the Fox position, okay? So I get that's why you might want to take it to the 11th hour, but I just think they rolled over for such a big number. I would have rolled over. If you've got that big number in your back pocket, roll over earlier. It seems like a major mistake. Anyway, Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, look for Mike Lindell and all the rest of them. They all have legal exposure. And Dominion's not done. Plus, they're not the only voting machine in town, as you're aware. So this whole thing where votes were flipped and you can just kind of say whatever you want, that ain't cool. And that now is followed by legal judgments that are not going in the ways of these many media outlets and high-profile people who maintain this fraud. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
That's kind of a big chunk of law and disorder, Albert. But can I do another little mini law and disorder here with other stuff? Is that
Sounds
okay with you?
good to me. Yep.
All right.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
I mean, this is important stuff, a lot of it. Some of it's right here in the Bay Area. I'll get to what I can now. The breaking news of the hour is that 2 people have been arrested and charged with murder in connection with that Alabama shooting that killed 4 people at that Sweet 16 birthday party.
Right.
That happened on Saturday. Sleepy town of 3,200. In addition to 4 who died, I thought the 32 were wounded, some critically. Meanwhile, in Tennessee, yesterday, lawmakers gave final passage to a bill designed to give greater protections to gun companies against lawsuits. The proposal, which moved on to Governor Bill Lean after a 19-9 vote in the Senate, would offer better safeguards to firearm and ammunition manufacturers and dealers. This is just 3 weeks after a school shooting in Nashville killed 6 people, including 3 9-year-old children. The Senator London Lamar, a Democrat there, said that offering new protections to gun companies while protesters in the state demanded greater gun control restrictions was disrespectful timing, is the quote. This is the whole thing with the 2 black Democratic Tennessee lawmakers who were expelled, you remember, from the chamber. They staged that demonstration. Anyway, the bill, again, is designed to give greater protections to gun companies against lawsuits. So the gun world grinds on in Tennessee. A ruling that would restrict access to an abortion pill across the U.S. is soon going to take effect unless the Supreme Court intervenes. They struck down the national right to abortion, as you know, this conservative, activist, jihadist Supreme Court. And that led to over a dozen Republican-aligned states passing outright bans on abortion. Now you have the abortion pill, mifepristone, on the chopping block. That will be decided, at least the beginnings of that process will be decided today. We can get...
I prefer the Walmart parking lot.
Yeah, get Clarence Thomas back to that Walmart parking lot life because he's a simple man. He is from... he's from basic stock, regular stock.
I've come from regular stock.
Yeah, that's it. Regular stock. That man shot while trying to stop the theft at the Pleasanton Home Depot. This is a crazy situation. Man was fatally shot trying to stop a theft at a Home Depot. They finally got the guys who shot him, right, in Oakland?
Right.
Witnesses tell cops the man tried to stop someone who was attempting to steal from the store, and he was later shot. Officers with the Pleasanton Police Department could be seen working into the night, they say, at that Home Depot. What a sad, God, just unreal. They're not releasing the full name of the victim because of instructions from investigators, but...
They said he's a loss prevention worker. So
so he's like a store security person then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
God. A man has been arrested in the shooting of that Texas cheerleader. That's a weird case. They were all getting into different cars. They were carpooling after this cheerleading thing, right? Outside an H-E-B supermarket in Elgin, Texas. And one of them got into the back seat of a car that wasn't with their group. It was an accident. You know, they're all piling into different cars. Isn't that what happened, Kim?
Yeah, just like knocking on the wrong door. They got into the wrong car. And
the minute she realized she was in the wrong car, she got out. And then the guy with the gun shows up. And they speed off. He shoots his gun 5 times or so, they say. And those shots did hit and critically injure one of these cheerleaders. So
what is it with, how come there's no moment, take a beat, figure out if it's an honest mistake? The knocking on the wrong door or the hopping in the wrong car. Why are people so fast, so quick to open fire?
Well, I mean, when are you shooting this teenage girl because she got into the wrong? I mean, it's just.
Look at her. She looks like a cheerleader.
Heather Roth said she was trying to apologize to the man when he got out of the passenger door. He just threw his hands up, then he pulled out a gun, and he just started shooting at all of us. Roth was struck by a bullet but was treated and released. Somebody else shot twice, badly injured, in the ICU, recovering. It's crazy. I've got John Rothmann waiting, so I can't give you much more. I kind of just grouped the gun stories together. I hope you don't mind. It's not all guns, but that's a little slice of America today. So
tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on the Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out
Hey, there's
there.
a lot going on. What can I tell you? I mean, so I have news from the Royals. The coronation, as you know, is right around the corner. I'll share that with you coming up. Also in the 11 o'clock hour, I've got 420 news.
What?
So that, well.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Let's face it. 420 is tomorrow.
Isn't anybody but a weed?
Yeah. I'll give you a sense of some stuff going on 420. We also have a bizarre cosmic event happening. Very unique. Hasn't happened in 10 years. I'll share that with you as well. I mean, there's a lot going on. That's all I'm trying to say. Smash the like button like a boss. It costs you nothing. Thank you for being here. Kim's News and then the great John Rothmann.
The Mark Thompson Show.
And good morning. I'm Kim McAllister on the Mark Thompson Show. And let's start with this story because it's a doozy. You heard Mark mention it. It is the Supreme Court today expected to give its decision on the abortion medication mifepristone today. Earlier this month, a Texas federal judge ruled production and distribution of this drug should be halted nationwide. Last week, the Supreme Court put the judge's ruling on hold as they decide whether to allow full access to mifepristone while this case is appealed. The city of Memphis and its police department are being sued by the family of Tyree Nichols. The man, Nichols, died 3 days after being beaten after a traffic stop in January. The lawsuit filed today describes the officers involved in the incident as a modern-day lynch mob and compared it to the murder of Emmett Till. The arrest of the suspects in New York City, of 2 suspects in New York City, are being slammed by China as a politically motivated smear campaign. That is what they are saying about U.S. officials arresting 2 men for allegedly helping run an illegal police station in Chinatown to monitor dissident activity and target party critics in the 5 boroughs. These accompanied DOJ charges against 34 Chinese National Police Force officers for using social media to do the same. throughout the United States. In the Bay Area, new details revealing why a 5-year-old girl was killed on Interstate 880. Court documents show 3 suspects yelled a gang slogan before firing on the SUV almost 2 weeks ago in Fremont. They apparently thought it belonged to a rival gang, this vehicle. Eliana, the 5-year-old girl, shot in the chest while sitting next to her 7-year-old brother as they were headed to a birthday dinner. This happened minutes after the same suspects allegedly shot at a man for wearing red. Security cameras captured their license plate, and the men were arrested 3 hours later in Santa Cruz. They now each face 42 years to life if convicted. More charges are possible in this case. There's a tell-all book from the top aide of former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, and it's due out this fall. The New York Post reports Melissa DeRosa's book is set to hit shelves October 24th, and it is reported to be an insider's account of behind-the-scenes politics. DeRosa has been a longtime supporter of Cuomo, who resigned amid the sex scandal in 2021.
I do hug and kiss people casually.
That's right. That was a... He didn't have a lot of high ground. That was an odd choice. But
he held on for a while, though. You know,
He did.
Just days after a Los Angeles area homeless encampment was cleared, the tents are coming back. What? Officials acted last week after a man who lives in the Studio City neighborhood reported that his dog got very sick after ingesting cocaine and THC not far from this encampment. The tents were set up in violation of anti-camping codes. After crews cleared the area, all but 4 of the residents accepted temporary housing. Those 4 are back, and now additional people have joined them. Their encampment now crosses city, county, and Caltrans jurisdictions, which means it will be more difficult to coordinate the next move.
And that was coordinated by, outside
activists
who are now making it difficult.
Dang,
I mean, at some point, I'm sorry. Once
you put the tents up in Caltrans territory, remember Wood Street, then there's lawsuits, and you've got who is responsible and who is going to pay for all this, and all these jurisdictions fighting each other. It's a mess.
That's true. Yeah. So well put.
Alaska Airlines plans to speed up your check-in at the airport. Check this out. The airline announcing plans to improve technology in their airport lobbies. The goal, to get you from the check-in point to security in 5 minutes or less. Think they can do it? Lofty goal. They plan to invest $2.5 billion for improvements in their hubs in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, and Anchorage. Alaska Airlines also says by 2023, iPads will replace kiosks. You'll pay and tag your checked bags just with a swipe of a finger.
There's never been anything like this.
The Mark Thompson Show is crowdfunded. Thank you for being part of the Mark Thompson Show community, participating in the chat, and spending your time with us. If you would like to support the show, please consider becoming a Patreon member or supporting us via PayPal. We love you. You can find those links and so much more at themarkthompsonshow.com.
She's Kim.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson? 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 Who's Mark Thompson?
I love this guy. Welcome back. He waited patiently, and I'm really sorry, John. We'll never have you wait this long again. I blame Kim, to be perfectly honest. I don't.
That was a quick
probably shouldn't say it, but
Kim, how are you?
This man. He is a legend in the Bay Area and beyond. Last week on this show, he revealed an intention. That intention is to consider a mayoral run in the city of San Francisco. I don't know what's going to happen with that. That's not just the reason he's here. But he did reveal that in conversation last time. But now, give it up for John Rothmann.
Yay.
John, you sexy fool, how are you?
I am splendid. How are you?
I'm well. I want your first thoughts on the Dominion-Fox settlement, if you would, please.
Politically, this is very important. But the most important single thing that happened is that Fox did not cover the settlement, as you pointed out earlier. I listened avidly to Fox to hear what they would say, whether Hannity or Carlson or Ingram or someone would say something, but not a word was uttered. I think it's a real blow to Fox. They are not through yet because there are several other lawsuits, including lawsuits against individuals, including Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingram. It'll play out, but the important thing is that the Fox listeners, millions of people, had no idea that there was a settlement, no idea that Fox committed what I think was the horrific act of defending this kind of nonsense. So it's an interesting thing. Just quickly, because I know you have many other things, it shows the problem in America, because you could listen to Fox and never know that any of this happened. And that's what's disturbing. There ought to be, if you really want to get to it, fair and balanced coverage, if I can use Fox's own terminology. They're neither fair nor balanced. And as you know, when I'm reluctant to use the term Fox and news, and I've said many times on my program and with you that it's an oxymoron.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, there's no question that, there are no words disparaging enough for what goes on over there and how they gaslit the public. But I was saying, John, that, this is about money, these suits. This is how we do stuff in this country. These suits, sure, you can suggest, not you personally, but it can be suggested that, it's about getting the truth out there and exposing these people for the lies they told and all this sort of thing. Dominion was in the business of, sure, building back their reputation, but also making Fox pay, putting a price tag on the damage to their reputation. And they went from worst to first. I mean, they went from a company that was a pretty small, voting tabulation company to now, this is a close to $1 billion company now.
Yeah.
As a result of this judgment. Yeah.
I have no objection to what you're saying, but I simply want to point out, I'm not interested in the money. I'm not interested in all of those implications. There's only one thing that I think we need to understand. Fox had to settle. If they hadn't settled, they would have paid an even steeper price. And the steeper price is coming because there are all these other lawsuits. And every single one of those lawsuits now will have to be settled or continued. I regret that Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson were not put on the witness stand. They belonged on the witness stand. But do you understand, Mark, the tragedy here is that millions of Americans not only don't know what happened, but will never hear about it. That people like Carlson and Hannity get away, in a sense, at this point, scot-free. By the way, did you hear any comment from major Republicans? No. Did you hear any comment from Donald Trump? No. And the most distressing thing, as Governor DeSantis was in Washington yesterday, as I like to put it, he was in enemy territory, is he's not talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. And Fox continues to do the abominable things that they have done over the years. I told you, Mark, I suffer from low blood pressure. When I need stimulation, I listen to Fox.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough there to get you worked up. Well, as you just noted, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline when it comes to additional lawsuits, and so if you're concerned with getting that information out, it will get out there. You're not going to ever see Fox report on this stuff for all the reasons that you've detailed and beyond. And when I think about it, because I did also think that it would be a stipulation of this agreement that they'd have to issue some sort of on-air public apology, the fact that it wasn't there was a little bit of a surprise to me.
And a shame. It should have been. But we don't know the inner workings of the court. I don't know what the judge's thinking was. I don't know what the process was. I do know that in the end, Fox lost. And I want to emphasize that. They lost, and they lost big time. Can you imagine, Mark, if only we had done what Fox did and we had been sued by Dominion, why, this podcast would be a multi-billion-dollar operation. Just want to point that out.
Let me ask you again about something else, just to change gears here. Look, you've been in the Bay Area a long time. You've been in politics even longer. Not even longer, but just as also for big chunks of time, decades. And so I ask you, and I that's my little preamble to kind of suggest, well, I kind of see you, frankly, as and I hope you won't take this in a bad way, but kind of a institutional Democrat in the sense that you believe in the systems that are in place. You've even noted that along the way, everything from the Federal Reserve to the way that the legislation gets made, But so against that backdrop, and please, you can take issue with any of that, but beyond that, against that backdrop, I ask you about Dianne Feinstein. I mean, it's starting to become a real big issue, John, and you need that buy-in from the GOP that they didn't give you to allow her replacement on the Judiciary Committee. I'm wondering how you stand on this now, and what should happen with Dianne Feinstein.
Leader McConnell made clear he's not going to help the Democrats on this. He's going to help Dianne Feinstein on this. It's something Dianne has to wrestle with. Frankly, what the Republicans are doing makes perfect sense politically in terms of maneuvering, but it's a tragedy for America. And Dianne should be allowed to recuse herself from the committee. The Democrats should be able to put somebody else on. But, that's politics in Washington. Dianne is history. She's not going to be around much longer, either by the fact that she's not running for re-election or by virtue of other options which exist. But in the meantime, the whole country suffers and the judiciary suffers, and that's a tragedy. May I say, as someone who has been a friend of Dianne Feinstein's, I've known her all my life. I knew her father. I've known her husband. So it's just a tragic end for a great career.
Well, I'm trying to read between the lines there. I mean, I don't have the relationships that you do. That's why I kind of described you in that way, because you have strong relationships with a lot of various high-profile politicians around the Bay Area, and maybe Dianne Feinstein is the highest-profile politician in the Bay Area. She should get out, and she should get out. She's missed 50 votes, John Rothmann, and it's outrageous. And she does.
You're absolutely right. But remember, there is no way to remove her unless she voluntarily resigns. You can have everyone say she ought to. She's under no obligation to do so. So I'm a pragmatist, Mark. I understand that her career is almost done. I'd like to see it end honorably. I think the Democrats are going to have to really sit down with her. But the problem is nobody sees her. You understand that. You can't get to her anymore. And so
what does that tell you? Politics is about caucusing. Politics is about working things out and stuff out.
It means she's
better than anyone.
She's almost 90 years old. She's in a term of office which cannot be shortened or changed unless she chooses to do it.
It's not a ceremonial office, though, John. It's a working office. She ought to get the hell out. It's outrageous.
Let me just say to you, you're saying she ought to, but that wasn't the question you posed to me. You posed to me what will happen, and I tried to answer you very directly, which I always do.
I said, what should happen with Dianne Feinstein?
In the end, it's up to her. She will have to make that decision.
Right. That was your answer to me before, and that's your answer now. Yeah.
I mean, I can't give you a better answer.
No, I get it. I understand. Okay, and I understand.
I had a number of listeners email Gavin Newsom and suggest that I be the interim senator, and I want you to know I'd be delighted to assume that responsibility too.
Well, so do you think she should resign so that you can ascend to her seat?
No selfish motives here. No, I think that it makes sense.
She should. She should, and you're playing it down the middle, and I don't blame you. But
no, it's not a question down the middle. She should resign. I don't mind saying that. But I know Dianne. If you pressure her, she won't.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
No. What has to happen is the leading Democrats have to go to her and tell her it's time. That's what has to happen. Public outcry, letters to the editor, comments by a radio talk show host and others are not going to influence her. In the end, and this is the other thing, I don't know whether she's really all compos mentis. I don't know whether she understands what's happening. So, what do you do in a situation like that? We've had other senators like this, by the way. This is not new. But
too many senators like this. That's the problem with this country. There's this thing where you get in and you can't get out, where you have such great power of incumbency, as you're well aware. But the idea somehow that she doesn't listen to a talk show host, she doesn't listen to letters to the editor, she doesn't listen to the hue and cry. That's the problem. That is what representation is. You have to listen to that stuff.
Mark, I don't know if she's capable of listening to this stuff. That's the problem.
All right.
And there is no way, I just want everyone to understand constitutionally, There is no way to remove her from office until her term expires or she chooses to leave. That's the reality. So all of the hue and cry means nothing. But you mentioned Clarence Thomas, and I did not want this to close without this.
Please.
Some of us are old enough to remember Abe Fortas, who I had the pleasure of meeting on several occasions. Abe Fortas was a great justice of the United States Supreme Court who accepted a gift from Wolfson, about $10,000, as I recall the amount. Earl Warren, who was then Chief Justice of the United States and a firm ally of Abe Fortas, went to him and said, "You have to step down. There's an ethics question here." And Abe Fortas did step down. Clarence Thomas should step down. He has committed ethical violations. Now, you may say they're not ethical violations that are clearly stated in terms of the rules of the game, but I know an ethical violation. You know, there was once a Supreme Court justice who was asked about pornography, and he says, "I know pornography when I see it." Well, I see what this situation is with Clarence Thomas, and there's no doubt in my mind that he ought to be removed from the court.
Well,
So,
he comes from regular stock, John.
I come from regular stock.
And
he likes Walmart. And he likes Walmart.
You know what?
That out.
Don't put it out. The parking lot's the best part of Walmart.
I prefer the Walmart parking lots.
Yeah. So look, the deal is with Thomas. First of all, it's almost quaint, the history, the Abe Fortas history, when people had a sense of the right thing and even the appearance of something that looks unethical.
Correct.
I mean, this guy Thomas is sneezing unethical stuff in an hour, well in excess of anything Abe Fortas did in a lifetime. And yet there's no shame.
Do you remember Justice Tom Connolly? He was appointed to the court or nominated to the court by Harry Truman. When his son, Ramsey Clark, became Attorney General of the United States under Lyndon Johnson, Tom Clark resigned from the court. He was still vigorous. He was still active. He still had opinions, but he didn't want to see any perception of a conflict of interest. And it seems to me that the lessons of history ought to be told. One of the things that interests me and surprises me is I haven't heard a commentator, except for me, talk about the Abe Fortas case. They just don't, people don't remember. They don't have history. But
it is out there, but you're right. It hasn't been spoken of enough. And I'll tell you something else about the Abe Fortas case since you brought it up. The Abe Fortas case, tell everybody, he was a Democrat. He was a liberal, if you want to call it a liberal justice. Who was president? And who was in power? What party was in power in the executive branch? Republicans were in power. No, Republicans were in power.
Step back. I'm sorry. Let's be clear. When Abe Fortas went to the court, he went to the court because of Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Sure,
and it was Johnson who nominated him. Johnson nominated him to succeed Earl Warren as Chief Justice.
And who did he resign under?
He resigned from the court under Nixon.
Exactly. In other words, thank you. That's the point I'm trying to make. He resigned from the court with a rival political party in control of that seat now. In other words, it would be like Clarence Thomas resigning now, right? You'd have.
Let me take your analogy a step further.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah. Okay.
There was no one who detested Richard Nixon more than Earl Warren, but Earl Warren respected the Supreme Court, and it was Earl Warren who knew that when Fortas resigned, that Nixon would nominate a new justice. Despite the political differences, Earl Warren considered the ethics of the court above all else. So the timeline here, as you pointed out, is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And your father, if you talk to your father about it, I'm sure he'll tell you the same thing.
No, exactly. You know, my dad would know it too. But I'm just trying to make the point that, well, you know, you would never resign with the opposing party in charge of the executive. Fortas did resign with the opposing party in charge of the executive
100%.
branch. And 100%. So it's absolutely part of that history.
Why are you yelling?
So anyway, those days are over, John Rothman. This guy, Thomas, he will be there to the bitter end. I mean, they could be stuffing hundreds into his pockets on his way to the chambers. And this guy is not leaving, and you know it, right?
Yeah. May I tell you, you're right. A Supreme Court justice remains in office for the term of life unless they choose to resign. There are some people who suggest there should be term limits on Supreme Court justices. I personally do not believe that. But there's a second aspect. Should there be a code of ethics for Supreme Court justices? And the answer is yes. But they are a self-policing group. They, let's assume,
John, they don't police themselves though. Why don't you feel as though there should be some limit on their term?
Well, I don't favor term limits because I know what that would mean. The independence of the court then is threatened. But I'll tell you what I do favor is a strict
the independence of the court. I mean, my God, don't you think it's, John, please grant me that it is overgrown in terms of both power and politicization. It's absolutely out of control, the Supreme Court.
But that was the same argument, Mark, with all due respect, that Franklin Roosevelt raised in 1937. When
he might have been right in 1937.
Okay, but the point is the independence of the court is, to me, critical. So you're asking me a frank, honest question. What do we do? And the answer is there should be a code of ethics which the court establishes for itself. It is a self-governing body. And let me point out to you, the same thing applies in Congress. The Senate makes its own rules. The House makes its own rules. They make rules that work in the interests of their interest. And the same thing applies on the court. But what disturbs me is that people don't remember. By the way, we did have one justice of the Supreme Court who was impeached in 1805, and Aaron Burr actually presided at the impeachment trial, and that justice was acquitted. We've never had a judge on the court removed for any reasons.
But you need a 2/3. It would be impossible now. You look back on those old days, John, the old days of Aaron Burr. Do you look back on those days and wistfully? That was the great America when Aaron Burr was.
No, it's the precedent. And that to me is what's key. And you're right to laugh about it. Aaron Burr was no great thing. But remember, he as a former vice president was indicted for treason and acquitted. The Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Marshall, John Marshall, the great Justice John Marshall, presided his impeachment trial and found him not guilty because they didn't have all the evidence. That was fundamentally, but that's history. But I love
that's good. The history is always interesting. I think as you say, you've got to know the history, at least be roughly acquainted with it to appreciate the predicament we're in now and maybe some of the solutions.
Let me remind people, your father is an expert on impeachment. He wrote a book on impeachment.
Yes, I'm very proud of his
program. A wonderful chat. And he said, Donald Trump is not going to be removed from office. And he explained to me very logically why. And it was based on his historical judgment. And he was absolutely correct. So my concern is that people look at history. Going back, if I can, to the Dominion case, the only thing that I felt badly about is part of that decision should have demanded that Fox concede that they were wrong. And I think that was the error. And I can't wait to hear, eventually there will be explanation as to why the judge did not. But
it's not the judge. That was part. It was a condition of the settlement, John. I mean, the attorneys make the deal. The judge
would have imposed, had he chosen to, part of that settlement. He could have said, I won't accept the settlement between the two of you unless you conform in a certain way.
But the judges are always incentivized toward a sort of settlement, right, John Rothmann?
I don't argue with you at all. I'm just saying what I would like to have seen. I think it would have been cleaner. But this is not over, and I want people to understand. There are other lawsuits. There are other issues that are going to be raised, and there is no doubt in my mind that Fox is going to face the slings and arrows in the future.
I love it when you say slings and arrows. It's so Shakespearean.
Mark, you do know that I'm off the next 2 weeks. I regret to say. Yes.
I did not know that, and this is an awful way for me to be told about it.
I sent you an email.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Sayonara, sucker! It's outrageous.
My niece is getting married, and we're going, believe it or not, out of the country in order to go to Mexico, Mexico City, actually. So
there's no Wi-Fi in Mexico? Come on!
If I have a choice between being with you and Kim and Albert, or missing the rehearsal dinner, if you think I'm going to get in trouble with my wife, you are dead wrong.
Well, look, I'm taking it hard, but probably the person taking it hardest is the Kamala Harris finger puppet. Really?
Oh, no.
Yes. Oh, John, you gave me my first interview on KGO. I'll miss you for 2 weeks.
You will, but I'll be back.
All right. We love you, John
Who
Rothman.
said that? Wait, who said that? I'll be back. Who said that?
I'll be back. Screw your freedom. That's what he said, wasn't it?
Screw your freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
And who knows, Mark? I want you to keep a running list so that when we sit together 3 weeks from today, when you have that running list of everything I missed, we may need more than a half an hour to cover it all.
Wow. I will keep a running list. We love your takes. Bye-bye, John Rothman. Thanks for being here.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right.
You boys really went at it today. Wow.
Yes, I like to hold his feet to the fire a little bit sometimes. Rothman has that great manner. He knows a lot about history, and I like him to share.
It was
Sometimes I
like
gotta push
two
him.
brothers bickering in the back seat.
I don't know if we were bickering, but I hope it didn't sound like bickering. But I like to go at it with Rothman. He's such a bright man. He's an incredibly gifted mind and knows so much. So really a lot of fun. All right, that's your drill down. If you missed any of it, it's up there. We'll also drop it as a separate video. You should smash the like button like a boss. You should also hit the
with your iron rod
notification bell right below the videos. There's little notification bells, so anytime we drop a video, like when we break out the Rothman conversation, you'll be able to see it separately. Everybody who watches in replay, I'm going to acknowledge a few of you in replay who have made contributions to the show in replay, because there's a little heart with a $sign, and if you click on that, you can leave us a little something in YouTube, even as you watch in replay. That's really great because we are crowdfunded. So really, really cool.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Yeah. When we come back in the 11 o'clock hour, still a lot to do. I will tell you about a major cosmic event. Won't happen again for 10 years. California named in a good way in a list of states in America that are evaluated in a new study. Tomorrow is 420. Where is the United States on pot? We'll talk about that as well.
Where are my weed smokers at?
There's a lot to do. Mark Thompson.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in the beautiful Livermore Valley. That's right. Here's some pictures for you. Look at the tasting room. Friends for life. You see the sign up there. They say you give us 30 minutes and we will be friends for life. They are fun, kind people who just are so friendly and would love to have you sitting in one of those seats, sipping one of the 28 varietals offered at the tasting room.
Yes. All
So
28.
nice.
I'll be
Yes.
sipping all 28.
Yes. And I will also have you know that we'll talk a little bit about this in a moment. They have a place for parties and conferences and other things. So we'll talk about that in just a moment.
I had
There's
a
a
conference
reason
and a party
that this
broke
place
out.
is fun.
That's right.
Why are you yelling?
It was hot. All right.
Let us begin, though, with the former Trump Organization CFO being released from jail. Alan Weisselberg went to Rikers Island in January for being part of a 15-year tax fraud scheme at former President Trump's business. He pled guilty last year when he and other executives received bonuses and perks after cheating tax authorities to save the company money, evading taxes on over $1.7 million worth of income.
He asked they asked him how was Rikers, and
It's fantastic.
It was an odd response, I thought. Yeah.
You know how they do.
Yeah.
It was great. I loved it.
Okay.
In Antioch, this is Antioch in the Bay Area. There's a big to-do going on because the police department has apparently been doing up to some shenanigans. Community members gathering in front of City Hall demanding change within the Antioch Police Department. One protester telling NBC Bay Area they now do not feel safe around Antioch police officers. And I do have some
How
sound
are we going
of
to
the
feel
protester.
if we cannot call someone when we're in danger that's actually going to help us, and we're not going to be worried that we're going to be seen as the perpetrator?
Yeah, organizers issued a list of demands that included firing officers involved in racist behavior. The Contra Costa County Public Defender's Office announced last week more than 40 officers were involved in sending racist and homophobic text messages to each other. California taking new steps in the fight for abortion rights. And that is including mifepristone. Here's a picture of that. The pharmacists will now be protected in California when giving this pill, mifepristone, even if the Supreme Court decides to restrict access today. The state will also safeguard its supply chain of abortion drugs and ensure the privacy of patients. That's huge. The governor says Republicans are waging a war on women, and the courts have been relentless, he says, in their efforts to target them and healthcare providers as well. So special steps being taken here in California. A state assemblyman is demanding California establish rights for adoptees. He is pushing a bill to make it easier for people who were adopted to request vital records like birth certificates. Current law requires a court order and a petition, but Tom Lackey says the issue is personal to him since he has 2 adopted children. The bill passed one committee yesterday, now heads to another, and if it gets passed and signed, it would begin in 2025. There is work underway in the city of San Jose to remove a controversial statue. Crews started this process yesterday after leaders voted 2 years ago to take it down. The 1,200-pound Thomas Fallon statue shows the city's 10th mayor raising a flag in 1846 on what was then Mexican land. Many consider him a colonizer. They say this represents racism and oppression. The statue is expected to be gone by May 4th and will then be put in storage. You think it should be put in storage, or do you think it should be put in a museum?
Yeah, in the racism and colonization department storage area, or what?
Yes,
I don't
that's
know.
right.
I mean,
That's
it's
exactly right.
It's a weird thing when they say, we'll put it'll be in their own museum. It's a museum. A museum to what? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I put it a little bit. It's not quite Hitler memorabilia, but I'm sure for the people who used to live here, it is only half a click off. I don't know what you do with it, but certainly, societies evolve and you take down things that I think, anyway, celebrate. It's one thing to remember, but it's another thing to celebrate a shameful past.
Well, yes, but apparently it's not going to be thrown in the trash or melted down. It's just going to be shoved in a closet somewhere, storage. So that's what we're doing. Sayonara, sucker.
Wow, that's brutal. Yeah, how about that? Well,
Sayonara, sucker.
Mm-hmm.
I love this story because it affects me directly. I don't know about you guys, but wearing headphones for nearly 30 years now, it's really taken a toll on the old hearing. Amazon is hoping to make it easier to understand the dialogue heard in movies and shows. So they've got a new feature called Dialogue Boost. It's now available on select Amazon Prime Video original movies and series. And what this will do, because usually when you turn up the volume, it boosts the music and the car chases and the engines and everything else and all the background noise. Well, this will allow viewers to increase the volume of what's being said in relation to the background music and the effects.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah.
Dialogue Boost can be used on series like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, along with films like The Big Sick, Being the Ricardos. Amazon said the feature will be available on more titles throughout the year.
Wow.
I have never heard of something like that.
Yeah, well, you've never heard of it because you've got hearing deficits.
I'm sorry,
That's
what?
the reason. I've got it too. So I can't watch anything without those closed captions.
Oh, yeah. I always have the words on. But sometimes you turn up the volume and it's like then music is horribly
No, that's
loud.
a great point. Yeah.
I
I think what you've described sounds like dreamy to me. Like I'll just have the dialogue pumped up. Terrific.
Right. I love that. That's good technology right there. Here he is, Arnold. Arnold Schwarzenegger will be giving fans a new look at his first ever TV series. Netflix releasing the first full trailer for its limited action series, Fubar, that will premiere May 25th. Along with Schwarzenegger, the series will star Top Gun Maverick star Monica Barbaro. The 8-episode series follows Schwarzenegger and Barbaro as father and daughter CIA operatives who are unaware they're both part of the agency. So what do they just bumble through the series? I don't know. Schwarzenegger also served as an executive producer for the show. Of course, that's when he's not filling potholes. Yes. This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards, and they have off-site space for meetings. I'll go back to the picture, and here it is. You could have your meeting here. You could have your party here. Their event room holds up to 100 people. Their small event room holds 20 people. Both rooms can be reserved for private parties as well. And they also do team building events at Tenuta. They call it Be a Winemaker for a Day. How fun is this? You can have a competition with your team as everyone goes home with a bottle of the winning blend. So pretty fun time.
That's kind of nice.
At Tenuta Vineyards. And we thank them for their sponsorship of the Mark Thompson Show.
What is the story with the, but if you call and say,
oh, you want to talk about your discount, do you?
well, you don't. I mean, I just think that I'm a discount guy.
Are you now? Okay, so yes. So you know they have 28 varietals, 14 reds, 14 whites. They are the home of the Mark Thompson Why Are You Yelling Red blend.
Yes, they are.
I recommend it. I mean, if you haven't tried it, you need to try it. If you like red wine, this is worth it. They also have the Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio?
Yeah.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Yeah, that's right.
So very, very good. And they also, again, have the other 28 varietals.
Yeah,
if you
so
would
that's
like
a total of 30 different
if you want
choices.
One bottle, if you want 2 bottles, whatever it is, they will ship it to you.
Wow.
And you can get 10% off. All you have to say is smash it with your iron rod.
Yeah.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
And you get the 10% off. But how you get that 10% off is you call Rich at the tasting room. And here's the number: 925-699-4576. Get your discount. Say smash it with your iron rod and get your 10% off.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
That's
They're
not
fast.
fake. That's
They
real.
ship
that's
this
great.
wine to you in a heartbeat. So very nice. I'm Kim McAllister on the Mark Thompson Show.
Love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Call me a liar. Know what you call him?
You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar, your pants are on fire!
Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir? It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret talent?
Isn't anybody but a weed?
100% effective. How about that?
Say what?
And this is their new home.
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
What up, friends? Hour 2. We're into hour 2 in about 20 minutes. The great Michael Hiltzik, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for the LA Times, author, and such great clean takes on so many things. He's going to stop by. I will touch on this Dominion settlement because Hiltzik, of course, is, an economics ninja, and he can offer us some quick arithmetic on how Fox really is able to write this check and what additional legal exposure might be in the offing for others. So glad you could be with us. You can watch us, of course, as you know, in delay. So many of you do take in this show in delay, and it's a great thing on this platform, YouTube, and then we're, of course, across all major podcast platforms that you're able to participate. So thank you so much. And we are completely crowdfunded, so I appreciate your support. I mean, the only way we make payroll is if enough of you step up and offer a support, you can do that at our website, themarkthompsonshow.com. And there you'll see a click through to Patreon or PayPal, and that's how you keep us going. I mean, it's a pretty simple but sometimes challenging situation. Luis, can we have a Chat GBT Rothmann fill-in for John? Can we have a Chat GBT fill-in for John Rothmann? What do you think? Safe travels, John. You're irreplaceable. Hello from Luis. That is, that's an idea. You know, feed a bunch of stuff into a Chat GBT, Albert, and then...
Big shout out.
Yeah, big shout out for the 99. I mean, I would... what you lack with the Chat GBT, but I guess I could read it, would be that, Mark, of course, as I've said, and you made the point earlier, this is a situation in which Dianne Feinstein needs to look deep into her heart. But I'm not sure that she is even aware of exactly what's happening. You'll miss that, the gravitas, the presentational gravitas he has. Gravitas is a dang word. But it's a thought, so thank you, Luis.
As long as ChatGPT could say there's no place I'd rather be, then I'd consider it. But if it doesn't give me any answer like that, we won't have a Rothmann simulator.
Yeah, exactly. The presentation is half the magic, A lot of Michaels and Davids on the Mark Thompson Show. It's true. Julie makes that point. We do have a lot of Michaels and Davids.
Michael Shores, Michael Hiltzik.
Yeah. David K. Johnston, David Katz. Tomorrow we'll talk to him more about what's the legal exposure that might be in the offing. I was going to mention this in San Mateo. Is it Curiodyssey, they call it? It's a play on curiosity. Yeah. It's a science museum and zoo. They've been around for almost 70 years, caring for rescued animals that can't survive in the wild. That's their mission statement. After a series of storms battered the museum's Coyote Point campus this winter, they're in trouble. Quote, I think we've had more than 100 trees go down, said the Odyssey director. Here's a little something on it. Go ahead, Albert. Run that, please.
Museum and Zoo in San Mateo.
Oh, don't run it? Are you going to run it? No?
And it's called Curiodyssey.
Oh, here it is. Got it? Does it run? Can it?
Will
it?
It's loading.
Oh,
let's load it real fast.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
He's letting it load. It's loading right now. This is a story.
I hope
from
it's ready, because if
87.
it's not ready, then I'm going to get
Running on generator power now, weeks after heavy damage.
Okay,
From
let's
last month's
buffering.
I think it's time.
Big shout out. Yeah, big shout out. Big shout out.
I don't know if that's on me or ABC, but
oh, Dan.
All right.
Kim, how are you?
All right. Anyway, let me tell you the story. You don't need the story from them. They've been out of power since March 14th. They've had to install and rely on generators to be able to care for the animals at this Curiosity. If you add fuel and delivery and rental and everything else, it's in excess of $50,000 a month to do this without the power, right? To run these generators and to put all of this in position. The powerful storms also destroyed animals' habitats, obscured walkways, and made it dangerous for staff and visitors to even be at Curiodyssey. The cleanup effort has been ongoing. The damage, though, has made it harder for staff to do their jobs. Everything from regulating the body temperatures of some animals to filtering the water of others, all of these things have become incredibly challenging. Even in the very worst of circumstances, the animal care and welfare is always a top priority for us, said Nikki Finch-Morales, the museum's director of wildlife. And while they hope to reopen to the public in June, in the meantime, they say the outpouring of support from the community has been invaluable. That's why the Curiodyssey staff is thanking everyone, apparently, including the county and other local zoos who've offered a helping hand during this particular challenging time. It's really heartwarming to know that we're not really out here alone on an island if we have such a strong community behind us, said Finch-Morales, the director. They are accepting donations from the public. Curiodyssey, Curiodyssey.
Here's the website. They say they say right at the very top of the website on a red banner, Curiodyssey temporarily closed until early June due to storm damage. Learn more. And then they are saying that they have a little donate button right there on the bottom. So they're hoping for some help to get this place cleaned up so they can keep taking care of the animals there.
I'm gonna donate. I really am. I mean, I think
it's a cool spot. I've been there a couple times. It's not your typical zoo. It's like a zoo and like a learning center.
Right.
And it's all animals that can't be living in the wild. And I actually got stung by a bee at Curiodyssey. So thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for that.
Well, that's a very it's an odd brag, but oddly it is a brag.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah, I think it works. Well, yeah, you know how I feel about these confined creatures, but if they don't have a chance in the wild, then it's a great service. And as you say, there's an educational aspect to it as well. So anyway, good luck to them. I will make a contribution.
The Mark Thompson Show.
What coping mechanism do you use to manage your mental situation? Have you fallen into a coping mechanism? Maybe not. Over 3/4 of Americans know that habits like drinking and drug use can be
not
bad.
Good coping mechanisms. That's not the way.
These coping habits feel good in the moment that you're coping. You can really, sometimes I like to really get my cope on. You know what I mean? Like really cope heavily.
Glass of wine and a deep breath. It's all
I
I
do one
need.
glass of coping, then I'll order another glass of coping before my first glass of coping is even done. So I get it.
Why are you yelling?
But we're aware of the fact that sometimes they're not so great. They conducted a survey and found that 77% of Americans report using drugs or unhealthy eating or sleeping to cope with mental health issues.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. They say, of course, that, you feel better in the short term, but long-term consequences can be damaging. The leading unhealthy coping habits. You want to name a couple? What would be the leading unhealthy coping habits? We have a poll up for this or something, Albert, too? How does this work? I sent you something on this. No, we didn't get that organized? No?
For the poll, it would be...
Albert, thank you.
Hold on.
It's okay to say you didn't get it organized. I can just do it differently. I'll do it here in the chat.
I'll tell you that my daughter rearranges the furniture in her room as a coping mechanism.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that may not be so bad.
No.
The leading unhealthy coping habits. I'm curious which ones you might lean on, all of you in the chat. Eating, says Gil. Drinking, says Nancy. Food, says Janet. Drinking, says Lynn. Everything, LOL, says Grady. Cope to your heart's content, says Square. My mental health is better when I watch the Mark Thompson Show. How about
there you
that?
go.
Oh, look.
That's right.
Sobbing, says Tom. Well, sobbing isn't unhealthy necessarily. Music and watching Wild Earth live safaris.
Oh, yeah.
Murder, says Steve Beck. Social media rabbit holes. Somebody feels the situation with Kim's daughter. Kim, I did the same thing as a teen. It is helpful, says San Jose Lola. Watching TV. Watching TV isn't like hugely bad for you, I don't think.
Unless you're like watching the true crime. I feel like that's not the thing that gets you to relax. Well, but for some people, maybe.
Yeah. It can get into your head and infect your thinking. Here's what they said were the leading unhealthy coping habits. They said alcohol use is number one.
Uh-huh.
Marijuana use after that. Other drug use, number 3. Gambling after that. What's that?
Yeah. I love other drug use.
Yeah, other drug use.
Pick your favorite.
Yeah. Marijuana's number 2, though. Still the leader. excessive social media use, over or under sleeping, binge watching, and clubbing and partying, everybody. That's how it goes down. Yeah.
What's your coping? What's your thing you do?
I am in a constant state of anxiety and unrest that I'm used to. I think I was raised in a household where there was anxiety. From my mother, I got it. And I'm kind of used to it. Like I just ride it without having to grab. But that said, I sadly do love a cocktail. Love a cocktail.
Do you?
Yeah. But I do feel like I can control that a little bit,
Right.
I don't know. But I feel maybe because I was raised with it, not in my house, but like at college and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my, but those are the things that make you feel better. I don't know if, you if we're talking about coping or whatever, like even I feel a crisis, but it makes you feel better. I have a cocktail and I eat. I can eat, and that does make me feel better.
What makes me feel better?
Late night eating I love doing.
Is going to the beach. Like the minute I step foot on sand or smell the ocean air or hear the waves, there's a calm that just happens. So
I was just having this conversation last week because I used to live at the beach, and I said, if you can live at the beach, if you can live close to water, it's the best thing ever. There's a restorative aspect to it, and restorative would be a ding word. And there's also a curative aspect to it. And that would be a ding word. It's a special relationship that we have, biological and evolutionary, to the ocean.
Yeah.
And so you're really right. But that wouldn't be a destructive thing, okay?
These had to be destructive?
Well, these are the things where these are the leading unhealthy coping habits.
Unhealthy.
Meditation, going to the beach, long walks.
Healthy.
Those aren't unhealthy. Those are just ways you cope.
Yeah.
Eating a tub of ice cream, probably. Right.
Yeah. Okay, I'm down with
cream.
that. Ice cream and wine. Yeah.
Ice cream and marijuana use.
Where are my weed
use and anything you
smokers
can
at?
grab at that point.
I'll quickly tell you, in the United States of weed, here's where legalization stands. States are indeed allowing adult use of marijuana at an unprecedented rate, everyone. If the wave of green legislation is slowing to some degree now, that's only because so many states have already taken action. That doesn't mean the wave's going to stop. Numerous states have been passing recreational or medical laws concerning marijuana. Setbacks have come as ballot initiatives have been rejected. In other instances, lawmakers and certain governors remain steadfast in opposing pot. It's kind of an old school view. So it's not a question of when, it's a question, I should say, of when, not if D.C. and the feds will get with the program and decide to do what the majority of Americans support, which is passing legalization, an end to this prohibition. Over 155 million Americans lived in a legal cannabis state after the November 2022 Election Day results, as a result of ballot initiatives and all the rest. 155 million Americans. States that are continuing to prime themselves to legalize the drug are increasing as well. In Alabama, for example, it's medically legal. You feel like that's where it starts, right? Where they make marijuana medically legal. I'll remind you, I'm doing this story particularly because tomorrow is 420. Alaska, it's fully legal there. Arizona, fully legal. Medically legal in Arkansas. In California, of course, it's fully legal for us. Colorado has it fully legal. Connecticut has it fully legal. And I might mention Delaware, medically legal in Florida. I might mention that, there have been some growing pains to making it legal in California. We've detailed them for you many times with the regulations and taxes associated with legal marijuana. There's a burgeoning world of illegal marijuana trade going on. So, burgeoning's a ding word. Georgia, they have medically legalized low THC products. I mean, again, they're wading into the baby section of the pool of legalization. Hawaii, medically legal. Idaho, it's fully legal. And it goes on. I'll post this to my Twitter feed at Mark T Live. But we're on course for the legalization of marijuana nationwide. But it's a slow process, and there are a lot of political winds that blow against. But increasingly, the public is just hip to the fact that this stuff is certainly no worse for you than alcohol. Not saying it's good for you, but it might be good for you in the right doses at the right time. Certainly, I'd rather have everybody high than everybody drunk with all the guns we have in this country. So, not that that's going to happen. Everybody's not going to get drunk and everybody's not going to get high. But I'm just saying, as a drug, as an intoxicant, I think it's a calmer influence. All right. Anyway, happy 420 to all of you tomorrow. We ought to get some kind of 420 thing going tomorrow, Albert. Maybe you can get that organized. Like some spokesperson and give us a quick 5 minutes on weed.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get together.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I have the supreme pleasure of, in minutes, welcoming on the Pulitzer Prize-winning writer, author, brilliant, clean takes on so many different things. He writes on business for the LA Times, Michael Hiltzik. But I wanted to get a quick update from you, Kim. Can I do that? You do some quick news, and then we can bring Hiltzik on?
I'll do it rapid because I don't want to leave the award winner waiting.
Yeah. So smash the like button.
It with your iron rod.
Kim's news real quick, and then, as she says, the award winner chances.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Hiltzik next.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report could be sponsored by you. We're looking for sponsors here, so you can email us at themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. Don't know if you heard about this woman. She is trying to share the screen with you guys. She is a CEO who is talking to the people in her company about bonuses and things of this nature. I have to take down my picture in order to get the there she is. She's talking about bonuses, talking about things of this nature, and telling her workers that they should provide excellent customer service, and they should be kind and respectful and lead by example and treat each other with respect. But then it takes a turn for the worse. And apparently, Andy Owen, the CEO of office furniture company Miller Knoll, then starts talking about bonuses and says, don't be going to Pity City.
Be kind, be respectful, focus on the future because it will be bright. It's not good to be in the situation we're in today, but we're not going to be here forever. It is going to get better. So lead by example, treat people well, talk to them, be kind, and get after it. Don't ask about, what are we going to do if we don't get a bonus? Get the damn $26 million. Spend your time and your effort thinking about the $26 million we need and not thinking about what you're going to do if we don't get a bonus. All right?
Yeah. Get out there and start thinking about what you can do.
I appreciate that. I had an old boss who said to me one time, you can visit Pity City, but you can't live there. So people leave Pity City. Let's get it done.
Wow.
Oh my.
Good
Leave
day,
Pity
sir.
City. Yeah. So apparently now everybody's having a problem with this whole leave Pity City situation.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I guess her workers were not very happy with this whole thing. They have not decided on the bonuses for the staff yet. So this is a whole thing of contention, and the whole Pity City thing didn't really go over so well, we could say.
I once had someone tell me, you can visit Pity City, but you can't move in there. She had that loaded. She felt like that was her big finish. She was sticking the landing with that. And instead, she just gets completely
she started so nice. It was like inspirational, motivational. And then all of a sudden, it took a turn. And she's like, you get that $26 million. You don't leave Pity City. Whew, girl, you just woo. Alabama law enforcement officials are calling reckless murder charges against two teens in the tip of they're saying this is the tip of the iceberg. honestly. A 17 and 16-year-old now facing additional charges in connection with a shooting at this Sweet 16 party that killed 4 people and injured 32 others. Prosecutors now say they would like to charge these teenagers as adults. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and the White House still sparring over the debt ceiling. McCarthy hopes to pass a Republican bill next week calling for a 1-year debt limit increase with a package of spending cuts and budget savings. You wonder if they do 1 year. Is it because they're just trying to bank on having to do this again and getting more things that they want?
Well, he can't get anything done. McCarthy's so weak. We'll talk to Hiltzik about it, but I think that, it's just a... Yeah,
the White House still contending the debt limit, the borrowing limit should be raised without any conditions at all. So, yeah. There is a military investigation underway after the deaths of 2 female soldiers at an Army post. This happened last month. Fort Hood in Texas facing increasing scrutiny over how female soldiers are being treated there. One of the 2 who died at Fort Hood reportedly had also been the victim of sexual harassment. And of course, the anti-vaccine Democrat running for president, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., officially launched his 2024 presidential campaign today in Boston. The son of the late New York Senator Robert F. Kennedy and the nephew of President John F. Kennedy receiving criticism for his anti-vax charity.
That's not fake. That's real.
Now, he's been an anti-vaxxer. I pointed this out. It didn't just start with the COVID-19 vax. So he's, this is just one... important. You might view it as important, but it's not like it was just hatched like so many anti-vaxxers. It wasn't just hatched last hour type thing.
Lastly, there is a rare type of solar eclipse set to take place tonight and Thursday morning on the other side of the world, where it will be more visible. Called a hybrid solar eclipse, a viewer on a ship in the South Indian Ocean would be able to see the moon covering the sun for a brief instant before it moves into a total solar eclipse. The largest town in the path of the eclipse will be Exmouth in Western Australia, population 2,800. So they'll have quite the view.
I'm told this is a wild thing. Yeah. Some part of the globe will see a partial eclipse, some part of the globe total. It's not going to happen again for another 10 years, I think I was reading, right?
I don't think we get a very good view of it all, though, but that's all right.
Well,
we can see the pictures on the internet.
A lot of scientists taking pictures and, getting...
Dr. Emil Schaffhausen.
Dr. Emil so Dr. Emil Schaffhausen will be taking pictures. We'll
this report is crowdfunded along with the Mark Thompson Show. Thank you so much for being part of the Mark Thompson Show community and spending your time with us. If you would like to support the show financially, please consider becoming a Patreon member or supporting us via PayPal. Find those links and so much more at themarkthompsonshow.com. I'm Kim McAllister on the Mark Thompson Show.
Don't make us beg. Subscribe, like, and share. The Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Use Mark Thompson.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How about it for a guy who is a brilliant Pulitzer Prize winner? I say brilliant because I love his take. So clean on so many different issues. In fact, well, let's bring him on, and then I'll ask you, Michael Hiltzik, about a column you did that related to the Bay Area in San Francisco. He's Michael Hiltzik, everyone, writes the business column in the LA Times. We did attend the same university. We both graduated the same university. I like to think of myself as Pulitzer Prize adjacent. Let me ask you, Michael Hiltzik, first to comment on the Dominion settlement. You had many a column about this, and you actually opined. I wonder if you could share your thoughts.
Well, this is a very big number. I mean, let's face it. This is, as close as you can get to $1 billion settlement without it actually being $1 billion, but certainly close to 800 million. That's a lot of money, and it clearly suggests or says out loud that Fox was very nervous about having to put its star anchors on the stand and have them admit in public that they were liars. And the odd thing about this settlement is that it happened so late in the process because the damage has already been done to Fox's credibility. The emails that Dominion was able to put on the record just over the last few months that were devastating.
I was making the point, Michael, that was surprising to me. If you're going to settle for that big a number, I mean, if that's in your pocket somewhere, why not settle prior to all of that stuff getting leaked? Or was it because they didn't expect it would be leaked?
Well, I think they knew
word.
that it was going to be disclosed because they had provided it to the plaintiffs at his Dominion.
But why then? It was it a leverage thing? They just wanted to see who would blink first, or what was going on?
Settlements of this size, settlements of this nature, they tend to happen at the 11th hour, or the 11th hour and the 59th minute, which is what this was. I mean, you really do need to be staring down the barrel of the gun before you flinch. But I think Fox management has come under a lot of criticism, from lawyers, not from, its many fans and non-fans, that it didn't really try to make this go away much more strongly before this moment. But it is, look, Fox's audience, its devoted audience, they're not going to be swayed by what they read.
Sure.
They're either too stupid or, don't care that they're being lied to consistently. Fox's critics, basically we've all learned, that we were right all along, not that there was any real doubt. The other aspect of this is that Fox does not have to make a public apology on the air. And I think that was very valuable to them, because there's another one of these lawsuits that's standing in the wings, and that's from Smartmatic, another voting machine company that has a $2.7 billion lawsuit against them. And I think one thing that people haven't really focused on, but maybe should, is that Dominion is owned by private equity investors. It's not a public company. It's not owned by a guy. And I think if you're owned by a private equity investors, those investors really are, they're probably pounding on the lawyers and pounding on the management to say, get this done. We just want the money. We don't really care about, any of this other stuff. Smartmatic is somewhat different. Smartmatic's got, owned and operated management. They may they may end up cutting a tougher deal, but we will see. $787.5 million. That's sort of a nice starting point if you're Smartmatic.
Yeah, I mean, and plus all of that evidentiary material that you can use in your case if you're Smartmatic. I wonder if you can remind us, Michael Hiltzik, where Fox gets all that money. They don't get it from the MyPillow advertisers and the commemorative coin advertisers that show up on Fox News Channel 24 hours a day. Where do they get to be this kind of company that can write that kind of check and still continue?
Right. Well, you're just feeding me a straight line, obviously, because you know that I wrote the column.
Yeah, you wrote a great column about it. Exactly.
That ran on Monday, just as the trial was supposed to get started. Fox makes much more money from what are known as carriage fees or affiliate fees, depending on, who's labeling them. These are the fees that cable systems pay to Fox to have the right to carry Fox News on their systems. And they're basically bundled together in the basic cable tier. If you are a subscriber to Comcast or Spectrum or whoever, you get Fox News whether you want it or not, and you pay for it whether you want it or not, or whether you watch it or not. And this is sometimes 2 or 3 times as much money as Fox gets from sponsorships and advertising on Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham and what have you. In fact, they get so much money from these carriage fees that if their advertising revenue went to zero, they would still have an operating profit for their cable operations. So
that's why I thought, the various boycotts that have followed various Fox personalities, while good in terms of raising maybe the shame quotient, apart from that, they don't really do any damage to Fox News Channel.
No, what counts for Fox is the number of eyeballs that they have. Basically, it's actually the subscriptions, uh, the subscriptions of the cable systems that carry Fox. Um, Something in the neighborhood of 75, 80 million subscribers who get their TV through a cable operation, and if maybe 3% of those people are actually devoted watchers of Fox, but Fox gets to count all of that whole universe in, and they charge something in the neighborhood of $2 per person per month, and that comes to $1.5 billion right there.
Is there anything else on the Fox thing before I move on? I was going to ask you also to talk about the San Francisco case, which you also did a really great column on. We had touched on some of this on the air here, as you might imagine. But if there's any, I feel as though we've pretty well tilled that soil of dominion. And as you've suggested, there are other lawsuits in the offing. There are also lawsuits in the offing for the various constellation of characters who were pushing this stuff. The Sidney Powells, Rudy Giuliani's, Mike Lindell's of the world, right?
That's right. Dominion's got lawsuits that are pending against them, but obviously they don't have the pockets as deep as Fox and News Corp have. So, maybe they can extract some sort of apologies or admissions from them, but it's not going to be a big number, or even if there's a big judgment, they're not going to get that
right.
sort of money.
I mean, it could force some people to bankruptcy or whatever, I guess, but
Right. I think we might see some details of the settlement that haven't been disclosed yet, but I think basically what we know is what we see is what we get, and it's to me, there's some debate over whether this was bad enough for Fox to make the whole thing worth it. I think it's really bad for Fox. I mean, $800 million judgment is, they can afford it, but it's going to hurt.
I mean, the humiliation associated with those emails, with those recordings, et cetera, that really was rough. So that was a body blow. The facts are a body blow. To hear Murdoch talk about the fact that he didn't buy into all this crap either, it was quite a couple of months of revelations, and then this big number on top of it. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see it as anything but a victory. But the fact that they continue on and that they can write that check, yeah, Michael, it's an extraordinary thing. Last thing I'll ask you, and then I do want to get to San Francisco, is do you think that there's a halo effect from this and from this judgment and settlement? Wasn't really a judgment, but it was a judgment on the part of Fox that they weren't going to get prevail at trial. They didn't want to go to trial anyway. They decided to write the check. Will they change the way they handle information on that? No, you don't think it's going to have any effect?
Well, they may be a little bit more. They may be a little bit more careful about what they commit to emails.
I see.
So that, but I doubt. And maybe the next time a situation like this rolls around, they may be a little bit more circumspect about what they say on the air, and maybe they'll be more careful. Maria Bartiromo, would say, yeah, everybody knows that, the election was crooked. She might say, Sidney Powell, why don't you tell us what you think? And instead of basically saying this stuff on their own dime, which is what was going on with Bartiromo and, Tucker and Hannity and, the whole rogues gallery over there.
They realized
their lawyers may say, don't say it that way.
Right. I mean, they were really throwing a heat. They may not be able to throw that anymore. You did a column,
but I think the bottom line is, look, if you still believe that Fox News is a news channel, then basically you ought to be in some sort of a home.
Right. Well, I mean, it's if you're in the choir and you want to be preached to, that's that's what we do.
Yeah.
Now, right.
Some people do. Yeah.
The story that came out of the Bay Area in San Francisco of Bob Lee's knifing and his murder. I wonder if you could speak to that. I love that you did a column on this. You made the point that we made on the air, which was, wow, people are really way jumping to conclusions on this thing, you know. And it was an easy conclusion to jump to, that it was some rando situation in a decaying city where liberal, progressive, you know. And there is some truth to that predicament in San Francisco. But what happened was everybody jumped to the wrong conclusion.
Right. Well, and it was they were even wronger than we had reason to believe. Look, I can't prove this because I don't have the emails to prove it. But the very day that this happened, there was this narrative out there that dates back really a year, maybe more, that San Francisco's turned into this really dangerous place. And part of the narrative comes from partisan, from Republicans who say, here's the most progressive city in the country, and it's run by Democrats, and it's a hellhole. And people are being killed and attacked and murdered, and robberies and burglaries are out of control. So there's this sort of standard narrative. And I don't live in San Francisco. It's been a while since I've been there, so I can't say what's in the eyeballs of San Franciscans and visitors. But the moment that this was a very high profile murder, Bob Lee is very well known, and if you didn't know who he was, you learned very quickly because with so much coverage of this case. And the very first day, I sort of said to my editors, or our editors, I wasn't complaining, but I was observing. I was saying, we're writing as though this is, a pointer to this narrative. And I said, what makes us think that it wasn't something very different? I mean, why was he in this neighborhood in the middle of the night? He didn't live in San Francisco. What was he doing there? I said, I'm not blaming the victim, but I was saying, there's a lot we don't know about this. We should not run off and assume that it was street crime. And as we all know, in the fullness of time, it transpired that it was not a street crime. It was basically a dispute between Bob Lee, and if I understand correctly, at least the allegation is a dispute between Bob Lee and somebody he knew. And it started out as a dispute over Bob Lee's relationship with this guy's sister, that basically escalated into a violent encounter. And what I wrote, actually, I guess the piece ran online and in the paper this morning, is that the truth of the matter is that if that is really what happened, as the allegation is, then this actually did correspond to what we know about most violent crime everywhere in the U.S., which is that the vast majority of these cases take place between people who know each other, not random strangers. And I went further and I said, the assertion that there's a lot of random mayhem out there that's a threat to people just going about their business is a long-standing picture of life that's not accurate, and that has basically allowed law enforcement agencies, your local police, to set themselves up as the bulwark between you, the citizen, and this wild world out there in which, if you walk out your door, you're liable to get slaughtered. And that's why we have SWAT teams and military equipment and surveillance teams in the local police and all this stuff that doesn't actually reduce crime, but may promote it and gives police a feeling of superiority and imperviousness that actually is not adding to public safety. So I looked at it, the trend over the years has been for police to create this image of life when in fact violent crime has been coming down fairly sharply over the last couple of decades. Violent encounters down by 30 or 40%, murders down by even more. In San Francisco, if you look at the actual figures, is one of the safest cities in the country.
I was saying this before your column, and I love that you pointed it out, because statistically, violent crime just isn't the problem that we sense it to be in the city. And of course, that Bob Lee thing just vaulted it to another level and amplified it when the realities are something. And now, what we did say was, don't leave your stuff in your car in San Francisco. I mean, they will, your stuff is going to get ripped off. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And there was another narrative.
There was a joke that that David Brenner used to crack at a time in New York City when there was a garbage strike and garbage was piling up on the streets, and he said, "I know how to get rid of your garbage. Just wrap it up, in gift wrap, and leave it in the back of your car and park your car on 8th Avenue, and it'll be gone."
That's about where we are.
But that's the image of disorder in San Francisco and other cities basically stems from the fact that we do see a lot of less than salubrious conditions on the street.
Such a strong
homelessness.
Yeah.
Homelessness. Drug use, what have you, and people tend to basically take their cues from that and say, well, there are these homeless encampments, there are crazy people walking up and down the street
right.
on drugs or alcoholics.
There's a sense of an unbridled lawlessness, to be honest, in San Francisco and in other major cities. It's as a result of some of these things that you're talking about. This is an interesting point, and I want you to follow this, Michael. Maybe we can talk about it. But J.E. Blake says this: they literally just closed the flagship Whole Foods because they can't keep employees safe in San Francisco. The danger isn't a narrative, it's a fact. Now, before you say anything, that is one of the things they said. But I want to ask you, Hiltzik, do you think there's an element of the Whole Foods closing that's not related to that articulated reason, but it's the cover they're using to close that Whole Foods location?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more that I would want to know about this. And we've already seen, there was a panic in San Francisco a year or so ago, maybe, during the pandemic, where Walgreens, I think it was closing storefronts left and right, and basically attributing it to crime, shoplifting, what have you. And it turned out that was basically a lot of hooey. And what they were actually doing was closing locations that were not living up to expectations in terms of business revenues. And Walgreens, in fact, has acknowledged, its CEO at a conference said, well, we may have overstated the safety aspect of that, which tells you that he's probably understating how much he overstated it. So look.
Anyway, this Whole Foods might have an element of that too. I don't know.
It might be. We don't know. I mean, if I understand correctly, this was a store that was open for a year. Who knows whether Whole Foods realize that it's in the wrong place,
right?
Or the neighborhood just can't support it, or what have you. I think
there are other elements.
That it was about crime is to make a leap that we don't have a right to make quite yet.
You can read him in the LA Times, see him when he's kind enough to be with us. He's usually very kind to be with us. You answer the bat beam usually when we put it up. He's the Pulitzer Prize winner. Find him on Twitter at Hiltzik M. Very good handle for him because he is M. Hiltzik. Michael Hiltzik. Thank you, Michael Hiltzik. See you next time.
The Mark Thompson Show.
He's a smart cat. Love having him in, for sure. Thank you all who have contributed to the conversation along the way. Albert, what are we doing, please? I immerse myself in conversation with my guests, as you're well aware, so I'm oftentimes not privy to that which is going on around me.
Albert, thank you.
We have some shout outs to do before the end of the show because we have some I'd consider this a major announcement.
Yeah.
Or major announcement adjacent.
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
This is exciting, and I don't even know what the announcement is. Albert, go ahead. I have my credibility glasses on for full effect. Please.
It's a major announcement just for the amount that was donated, but it's not the best of news, and it's from one of our number one donators here, from Andreas.
Oh, Andreas, we've missed him. Oh, this is so sad. Yeah. $50 is such a generous contribution. And here is the message. And we were aware of this in the show. We didn't want to go public with it because he is, Andreas, a great supporter of the show, patron of the show. R.I.P. May my mom and dad bless your show. Mom buried last Tuesday, and dad died in my hands Wednesday. Have a good day, everyone. My God, I mean, it's just so heartbreaking.
Back to back, yeah.
And you know how that was a struggle for Andreas and his family, you know, as they were in various stages of difficulty with their health, you know, in and out of the hospital. And so, Andreas, it's so, on the one hand, lovely to see you and back in with this community of people who watch and enjoy this show and watch and enjoy your participation. You've always been such of course, a tremendous supporter of this show. And we all grieve with you because it's the saddest news.
We're sorry
can't
to hear
imagine
it.
what a difficult. And this is, I mean, so Albert, you're saying that Andreas left us $50 and then another 50?
And not just another 50. He actually had one more 50. So Andreas, thank you so much for
Andreas. Yeah. Well, all our love, Andreas, and thanks to all for your warm thoughts, he says. Love all of you. Yeah. I mean, you know, no words truly can soothe that kind of loss, but it's terrific to have you back. And thank you, as always, for the support of the show. Really means a lot. Yen Luis sends condolences and a $20 gift to us. You're a legend, Andreas. Thoughts and prayers to you and your family, from Luis. Wow. That's very, very sad. So many people, I'm seeing it in the chat.
Yeah.
So many people who are reflecting their heartbreak for Andreas, the loss of both those parents My Greek immigrants opened 13 stores in San Francisco, Andreas says, and never had a problem. Loved San Franciscans, all of them. $50 again from Andreas as he writes in that super chat. It is true that, you know, the San Francisco Bay Area was never really associated with the kind of smash and grab and the fear and the having to factor in some kind of unbridled shoplifting that many of these retail businesses are having to deal with. It's a different place. It really is. And the immigrant population, which is so proudly part of the cross-section that is San Francisco. I mean, you just love all the ethnic communities in San Francisco. Asian communities, right? The Italian community, the Greek community. It is remarkable how it's a city where, I was just talking about this with somebody the other day, was like, no big deal. Gay, trans, ethnicity. The city is made up of all of that. It's a celebration of that just by its mere existence. And yet when you go to other parts of the country, all of a sudden it's everything, you know, is so very different. I love the tolerance and the magic of San Francisco that comes with opening arms up to so many of these communities. And look, it's not perfect, but I'm just saying it's great to have all of these ethnicities represented. But it is a different place than it used to be when your immigrant family came here, Andreas. So, super sticker from James Buchanan. Thank you, James, for $5. Appreciate that. Yeah. Chad Holcomb, Smartmatic is waiting in the wings, is right. Smartmatic has their own lawsuit against Fox, as noted. That will absolutely happen. Show me the money. Aloha, baby, from Walter. That was at the beginning of the show when
big shout out.
We were talking about that huge check that they had to write. Huge, huge check. Kelly Malloy, love the show. $10. Thank you. Big shout out,
big
Kelly.
Shout out.
Thank you, Kelly Malloy.
Everybody. Yeah. Pamela Kirby for $10,
Big
super
shout
sticker.
out.
Big shout out to everybody who sent. And let's keep a great thing going. Miguel Ponder, thank you, Miguel, and thank you, everybody who's made a contribution today. We are crowdfunded.
Thank you.
Because it really is up to the crowd to keep us going. So many who are reaching out to Andreas with moments and thoughts, all related to his loss. It is it's a great thing that we have this community. I have to say, we don't think we have this community at the old radio station, and the idea that we have it and that our community could feel the pain of somebody else in the community, it's a real special thing, so. Nikki's show begins now on the Nikki Maduro channel. Is she there today?
She is not.
She is not, so it'll be Kim.
So it begins when I get over there. That's what happens.
Hey, tomorrow, David Katz on the other legal machinations that await Fox News. And until then,
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
It is also 4:20 tomorrow. We'll get a little more...
Out of time. Bye-bye.
All right. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.